A months-long investigation looks into corruption complaints against Tonawanda Mayor Rick Davis. An ethics committee is looking into whether Davis used city funds for himself. The I-Team's Madison Carter spoke with the mayor, who is standing by his actions.
City of Tonawanda Mayor Rick Davis says he learned the ethics committee was going to look into his involvement in the Harbor House construction project in the summer of 2018.
When my brother informed me that he was bidding on the contract, the next day I brought up my building inspector and my administrative assistant, told them that I was no longer having anything to do with this project.
7 Eyewitness News legal analyst Florina Altschuler says this bid should have never been submitted.
That's another issue. If it's his brother and he's a government employee, they're really, there should not be nepotism, and family members generally should not be contracting with government entities where another family member is an employee.
But the law doesn't explicitly forbid nepotism.
But the appearance to the general public is that there were some sort of communications or something underhanded, and so generally family members don't participate in those kinds of contracts because it just frankly doesn't look good.
The relationship brought up additional challenges as the Common Council and Ethics Committee closely examined the bidding process and award for services by the city. The committee would eventually decide Davis did nothing explicitly wrong and suggest there's a lack of trust and collegiality between branches of government in the city of Tonawanda. Here's the material they had to work with as they reached that conclusion. First, the city's procurement policy states it needs 3 bids for a project, and 1 was expired at the time of the decision to award the contract. The 2 that were still contenders were Niagara Construction and JD's Handyman Service, the company owned by Davis's brother. Next, records show 3 bids were submitted by JD's Handyman Service, all dated February 28th, with a $30,000 gap. These bids were dated a week before the next bid was even submitted on March 6th.
Your brother came in as the low bid a week before anybody else was able to bid on the project? Or do you think these are dated properly?
This is the first I'm seeing them because, like I said, I wasn't involved in the project.
The bids from JD's Handyman Service included handwritten adjustments. Our sources told us these weren't from the contractor, but from someone in the mayor's office. That information was later confirmed by Davis's administrative assistant, Chuck Gilbert, who was also present at our interview.
And how come there were handwritten adjustments to the bid? Whose handwriting is this?
I couldn't tell you.
Is this your handwriting on here?
Yeah, that's just a combination of what the numbers are when we added them up.
A second bid wasn't just adding, it was actually subtraction. Gilbert took out services which ended up lowering the amount of the bid from $38,000 to just $30,000. The initial bid from Davis's brother came in at just under $60,000.
What was the math here?
I think what they did was the building inspector and the Parks and Rec department decided that they wanted to do the installation themselves, so that was taken out of the bid.
Okay. And you made those adjustments at the bottom?
That was just my notes, yeah, for that.
Bids that came in a week later from Niagara Construction included quotes for insulation. No adjustments or notes were added to these quoted prices for the estimate.
There could be a change in the scope. It's a little bit odd if the scope of the work would change before the contract is awarded.
This is not the first time Davis has been scrutinized for involvement in a bidding process. Emails from 2007 show Davis, who was a council member at the time, emailing the city engineer about purchase contracts. It was his response to the engineer that caught the attention of the mayor at the time, Ron Pelosi, a mayor who would later be a part of the ethics committee looking into Davis.
Then we could fax out to TVGA and another company just to cover our asses without doing an official RFP. Do you remember the email?
Yeah, it's an RFQ.
So when you said you're going to talk to your friend and then fax out to another company to cover your ass without doing an RFP,
RFQ is if
No,
it's
I
less
know
than $20,000,
It says if
you
it's,
only need to get 3 bids.
Pelosi wrote a scathing letter titled, "Who Do You Trust?" where he says he, quote, uncovered an attempt to influence a bid process for a friend by a sitting council member. He also sent a note to the Common Council president at the time saying Davis's actions, quote, bring into question the bid process in our city, and he was deliberately using the system for the benefit of a friend.
There is an underhandedness if you let somebody know, hey, we have bids in, this is what the bids are. If you bid this amount, you should be able to get it.
Again, legally, our analyst says this situation is not black and white.
It's certainly an element of government corruption.
Davis denied his email depicted any actions to influence the process right before he abruptly ended our interview.
so you don't think that this is bid rigging? You saying
No.
I'll let my friend know what to come in at?
No, that wasn't it at all. And
I mean, can you just help me explain this? Because I don't want to put something out.
I explained this 12 years ago. I'm not explaining it anymore. I'm really not. This whole interview has been nothing but a political witch hunt. And I hate to use that term because somebody else uses it, but interview's done.
No more questions?
No more questions.
Okay. Thanks for your time.
All right. Tonawanda's 3-person ethics committee met 8 times and interviewed 13 people between August and October of 2018. The group addressed the 8 complaints against Davis as a whole and not individually. The panel determined that some people appeared to show poor judgment, but found no unethical behavior or violations of ethical conduct.